Audio. There we go. Oh, wow. All right. It's getting late in the day for me because I do Advent of Code. Hello. How are you? Good, I guess, morning to you. Seems like a morning. Cool. So this is a visualization of the IK stuff that I was working on. The Oh man, I colored them both green. I'm not going to be able to talk about them individually. The green arrow on the right. So this is a visualization for an IK constraint, for a joint constraint. The constraint is shown as the edge of the indigo line here. It's a cone, so the vector from this to this and through it defines the axis that the cone lays on, which means that the cone kind of comes out like this as an edge. It's a 3D cone, right? So it's like in this area. The problem that I was running into is basically the way that I wrote the code works for 2D, and I was missing, I think the rotation is what I was missing for 3D. But I was missing some for 3D. So you can see that in 2D, this is all correct. So if I change my joint positions here to not have a Z-axis, so 0, 0, 0 for Z, and I run the visualization again, this is actually just accurate, right? And interestingly, both of the arrows point in the same position as well, which is comforting because that means that the matrix rotations and inverses that I'm doing to transform this point to the origin and back out seem to be correct in the case that I had it working before, and also the case where it has three-dimensional differences. So TLDR, the red lines are the bones, the green spheres are the joints, the blue line coming out of this sort of defines the axis on which the joint constraint is. The joint constraint is just right now basically a circle. So the further you get away, the further that angle grows, which is visualized by this white line. So this is the slice of the bottom of the cone, basically. That this joint projects onto the blue line. And then we convert this slice into a 2D problem. So this circle is actually the bottom of the slice of the cone. The red dot is this joint here. You can see that when I move it out and back, that red circle moves. And this green circle is the green circle on the intersection of the edge of the cone. So what we're doing here is we're taking this, we're turning it from a 3D problem, mapping the point at the end of the blue line to the origin with a rotation that makes it the XY plane. Bevy's XY plane, that is. I chose the normals for, or the normal created by this line out of the plane. So through the other end of the plane. And then the normal that is Z, so towards the camera. And I rotated these points, really just the target, but I've rotated these points and translated so that this point here, I should put a blue circle in this, actually, that's going to be a really good idea. I should put a little blue circle in the center of the 2D visualization to drive home the point that this is the translated. So we've got the 3D view on the left. The 2D simplified problem is the bottom of the cone. The target is red, and we're just basically taking that radius and slamming the red circle into the edge of this circle. which we then use the inverse of the matrix and the reverse of the transform to map it back to 3D space. And thus it is here for that intersection on the cone in this case. And then we extend it back to being the bone length. So this indigo line is basically saying like, hey, the joint is trying to be somewhere over here. And this indigo line is the edge of the cone for where this is like out of scope. And if you end up being in scope, right? If you end up being inside of that cone, you can see the joint constraint visualization goes away because there's nothing that we need to do. It just gets to stay right there. So this has a problem in that if you add a third axis, so we've got X changes, Y changes, and Z changes, then the visualization starts to break down. So in this case, this has two, so the whole visualization, this is the same program. It has two visualizations running at the same time right now. The first visualization is the one that we just showed, which is the 2D, like, faulty one. So on the right-hand side, these right-hand vectors that match exactly on this indigo line and go on the right side of the 2D problem, those are both the same. And then the two vectors on the left-hand side are also matching. So this is the corrected position, I think. And you can see that the joint that I'm moving is bigger than the other one. So you can see it's closer to the camera, which is what we did with that positioning that I just changed. So I think what's happening here, I don't have camera rotation, unfortunately. That's what I want to implement next. But hopefully when I implement camera rotation, what will happen is that we'll see this point kind of show up as hitting that cone that is supposed to be there. But we'll see. The white line visualization, I think, is incorrect currently. So my next step is to kind of like continue fixing this visualization. And once I'm happy with the visualization, take the code that I wrote for the joint constraint and move it into the actual IK problem that we have shown in other, let's see, inverse kinematics. What do I call these? Inverse. I don't know why that's not auto-completing. Inverse kinematics, fabric 3D. Why is that not working? Oh, it's underscores. That's why. Because I also named it with fabric as the first word. So let's see. We have a number of different demos at this point for the fabric stuff. This is 2D, 3D, 3D multiple end effectors, etc. I think that the long multiple end effectors is currently still working. So this is the IK being solved without joint constraints at the moment. This is a multi-end effector fabric implementation where the root happens to be at the center, and this bone chain splits into a Y at this subbase right here. And those two end effectors track these spheres around. And you can see that when the spheres go too far, the joints kind of like stiffen out. And overall, this works, right? This is generally good, so to speak. And that's where we're going to put in the constraints. Let's see, I think we also, no, not the double one. I don't want double. I want the short one. Here's another one of the demos. And this is kind of the demo that proved to me that there was something, I think, going a little bit wrong there. So I started doing the implementation here and then backed out and started doing the visualization instead. And the visualization has been pretty good. The visualization has been very useful. It's also nice to see that that moves with like the XY of this positioning. I don't know. In any case, we need to do some updates to this. So that's kind of what I'm working on right now. Other than advent of code every day. I also did a maps post that I'm going to make a video on. I need to make some updates to the post, which I think I mentioned in the video. Maps. So there's a couple things that are wrong with this post, but they're all fixable. I think that one of the things that I want to do is pick maybe some different demos for the top. Got some feedback that, hey, maybe these aren't, maybe these example here isn't contrasty enough to show the noise. I feel like to me, the noise is very obvious here, but that's not necessarily true for everybody on every monitor screen. We'll increase the level of detail on the post by 2. We'll increase the level of detail on the post by 2. I don't know what that... Oh, you mean like zoom in? I hope that's what you meant, Kasu. I don't actually know. Oh, confused by the same map twice. That's twice. I get another 6 or 7 or 8 though, so I'm good. See, my problem is I take people seriously first. And then, yeah, I don't know. I think I'm generally happy with the post. There are a couple. The anisotropic image is probably one of the better images in the post right now. One of the things that I forgot to do. This all the way also has Bevy examples to go along with it. That Bevy examples repo that I kind of keep up to date here has a maps folder in the concepts directory. So there's a whole bunch of examples in here, shader stuff, concepts, not assets. And in this bin, we have all of the things that I got all of the images from. So for the manual ones, it might not be that serious. I think that I will still, because these are all solid colors. So like linear versus nearest filtering for solid colors doesn't really matter. But if you do asset server load with settings, you have to set not just the repeat here, but also the filtering to linear, because for some reason, getter init descriptor and the default for an image sampler, for some reason that's nearest by default, which is interesting. Avian Astra says, just want to say I absolutely love your Bevy content. Just want to show some appreciation for that. Oh, I'm so happy that you like it, honestly. It's a lot of work to put together, so I'm happy anytime people find it useful. I actually have this code open locally as well, I think, somewhere. And I have some of the changes locally already. But for some reason, this is nearest by default, and I don't really know why. I'm assuming that it's nearest by default because people who are doing 2D stuff want nearest, and people who are doing, I guess, maps know more about image filtering. Maybe something like that. I don't actually know. So if I run KTX maps here, and I guess I didn't run it recently, this should already be compiled. What did I do? Did I clean my directories? I think I did. I don't remember. Maybe I did. But I submitted a PR to make this a little bit easier. Hopefully that'll land in 0.18. It already has one approval. But yeah, I need to make some decisions, or not some decisions necessarily, but I need to make some better examples, I think, and then update some of this code to make sure that it's all linear here so that I don't point people in the wrong direction. And then after I make those changes, I'll make a video on it, and people on YouTube can enjoy map content. I guess we don't really need to run this. I'll let it build though. What else do I have going on in Bevy land? I have, man, the skiing demo turned into such a big project. I wanted to do like a skiing demo to show off like using Blender for level editing and stuff. And then I just like, I let it spiral. So I have so many things. Why are there 3 pull requests? They're all me, right? Okay, cool. We've got light map baking, a couple other things for skiing. The demo itself. Let's see, what have I done for the demo itself? I have tunic bushes completed. Material layering is implemented. Material layering actually is in the Bevy examples PRs right now, I think. I don't know that I've pushed it all up, but building on some of the other layered materials stuff, this is now just a fully like standard material-esque fork that uses 2D texture arrays, which I think is really cool. This doesn't have the cool demo in the screenshots, but you can take my word for it that these are 2D texture arrays. I guess. I don't know. Or don't take my word for it. I don't know. Some of this stuff is really cool, though. The way that this works is basically like there's a series of forked files here, which are basically the PBR shaders. I tried to keep compatibility as much as possible. And basically this is just getting put into like a separate crate. And so the material that replaces the standard material is called layered material. And that accepts all the 2D texture arrays for things like base color, which allows you to extend that with a shader. So this is like my extension, which uses, let's see, like this shader. And there's nothing super different here, except for the fact that PBR input from standard material now works with 2D texture arrays. So if you pass in an index, you will get back all of the PBR input information for that like texture set, including base color, normals, all the way down. So you can write a material extension, which is extremely similar to the standard material extension, and use a couple of the forked functions and do like terrain height lerp blending as an extension shader on top of something that is vaguely standard material looking, which is really cool. But that was part of the quest for Tunic vertex color lerped terrain. That's why I originally started doing it. And Tunic doesn't even have very intense like material layering. Like this is the, I want to look at the image, not the post. Like this is the extent of the material layering in Tunic. It's like a little bit of noise applied to like two different textures or two different color textures. It's not even normals or anything. So I kind of went overboard kind of building that demo out. I think it's really cool though. And it's something that I want to use more moving forward anyway. So happy to put the time in there. See what else is going into the scheme demo. We have the IK stuff. All the IK stuff is for the scheme demo too. Which is now like a whole series of demos. Like this is going to turn into like hopefully not an hour-long video on Fabric, but you know, after putting all this effort in, it might. Which is kind of funny. So, layered materials for terrain, the KTX compression textures and stuff also went into this demo, which Hukasu had a PR with some suggestions on. And then IK for turrets and spiders. Then there's some Blender specific stuff that needs to happen. There's animations that come from Blender. I think the animation stuff is going to be another project like this. So I might try to cut that off a little bit and do maybe a low animation demo. Am I a Bevy dev and is Bevy moving away from WGSL? Depends what you mean by Bevy dev. There are two people effectively. Plus, I guess, I don't know if they've ever paid any contractors other than Francois. But there's basically two people paid to work on Bevy at the moment, Cart and Alice. Cart created the project. Alice is basically the lifeblood of the project from like the way everything is managed, in my opinion, which is so much work. And then they also find time to like build their own stuff and upstream it, which is just they do so much. She does so much. There's a bunch of subject matter experts, and I'm not any of those people. I'm not Cart, I'm not Alice, I'm not a subject matter expert labeled, but I do make PRs into Bevy. So take that for what it's worth. Anybody can make PRs into Bevy, though. You could make a PR tomorrow. Is Bevy moving away from WGSL is the other question, which the answer, I think, is yes. Not yes as in like Bevy is moving away from WGSL totally, but yes as in Bevy has added stuff with Naga oil to power imports and things like that on top of WGSL. So the like little weird import syntax that you can't find documentation for anywhere else with the little hashes, that is a Naga oil extension to WGSL effectively. But there is a project that has been gaining a bunch of traction that is a wider than Bevy kind of community effort that hopefully is going to try to also upstream things into WGSL, the spec. And it seems to be gaining a bunch of steam, and it's good to share things with the rest of the ecosystem. So I think that Weasel is going to end up landing fairly soon. It's not going to land for 0.18, I don't think. I would be very surprised if it did. 0.18 is going to, I think the release candidate is going to be like next week. No, not next week. It'll end up being like the week after next week, if things go on time. But Weasel is basically just a superset over WGSL. So we're not really like moving away from WGSL on an absolute terms level. There's a layer on top of WGSL, like a superset, with some very useful features that Bevy and other projects need. And that is the shader language that is going to get targeted, but it's going to basically like compile to WGSL, and then WGSL gets compiled into, you know, something that actually runs on your GPU. So the answer is like yes and no. Yes, Bevy's moving away from WGSL, but not in like a ditching WGSL way, but more of a there's a project that does the things that Bevy needs to add on top of WGSL. That I think is going to get a PR in the next cycle. I know that Charlotte is maintaining a branch with all of the Bevy shaders already ported. And I think they're just waiting for some extra language server support before trying to land it and things like that. They're trying to make sure that the experience of writing Weasel improves the current experience of writing WGSL and Bevy right now. Before it actually like gets PR'd and landed, which is valid, but I'm very excited for it. Okay, so this is the IK stuff again. I want to have like a cone visualization here, but it's going to be a little bit tough, I feel like. Maybe it won't be. Maybe I'll just try it. Bevy docs, gizmos.primitive, right? Primitives 3D. This is basically what we want. And then I think we have a cone. I need like a jump to top button. Is there a jump to top button in the docs.rs that I just don't know about? And then I need a cone. Oh, perfect. They already run primitive 3D with a cone. I can just yoink this. I'm not even going to have to write the cone myself. I can just yoink it. So let's see. Our red line here is the vector that is red 400 from JA to JB. JA and JB being just like any two bones. A shift space is the Chrome shortcut for jump to top. It really? Shift space. Shift space does not do that for me. Shift space is like page up, page down. Probably because I'm on a Mac and you're on Windows. Might have to do page up. I don't have page up, so I am SOL if that's the case. I do not have page up as far as I'm aware. I do not have any set of keys in any combo that does jump to top. Split or go, keep gang. Yeah, I actually have both on my desktop. I have a split ortholinear, the Moonlander, and then I have a regular keyboard that's like a 60%-ish keyboard. Something that I keep around basically like if I need it as a bailout. Because like sometimes there's like a thing that I need to hit in Blender or whatnot that is like, you know. So these are that, but really the thing I need to put this cone onto is this line, right? the projection O of the target T on line L1. So the target is the last joint here, the one I'm kind of like moving around. O is the like intersection point on this blue line here. It's not actually that right now, I don't think, specifically because really what's happening here is the projection of this red line onto this blue one. And the visualization right now is actually a little bit inaccurate, right? Like this white line should really be pointing, I believe, at this target and not at whatever that is. Again, we have two visualizations running at the same time here. One of them is buggy and the other one is the new one. And I haven't differentiated them very well at all. Basically because I'm going to delete one of them. So we're going to do gizmos, I guess, 3D here. Primitive 3D. We have our angle. Our angle is, I think, defined after this position in the file, though. So let's do angle here. Frac pi 8 is actually our angle. I think that this 7 and 7 is fine. Maybe we do S. This is the projection. And then I think we're just going to go with isometry default for the moment just to see it render. But this is going to have it in the wrong position. So this cone is going to be mid-pointed on this point and not rotated in the correct direction. Right? So like it is getting the right size here. Let's see, what are they doing here? They're doing rotation and translation. Translation uses 0.5. I think that's going to be accurate. This is going to be for us positions 1. I think. And then this rotation, I'm just going to comment out for a second just to test this. We'll do a default for the moment. And then everything here is... Oh, this needs to be a quat. No, this is translation. What's wrong here? Translation positions 1 times 0.5. This needs to be like a vec3a or something then, right? So now we've got that not at the right place. I think the length... Translation is going to be this, and it's going to be S over 2, right? And then the rotation... The 3D rotation gets me here. Let's see. We need a quat from... what am I doing? From rotation arc? This looks like it is facing negative y by default. So this is going to be neg y to our blue vector, which is, I think, positions 1 minus O. Which is not quite correct. Why is that a 90-degree turn? That feels really weird. From rotation arc. I guess technically trying to figure out where forward for facing down is. I think forward for facing down for this is negative y. I think it is, which means that this is wrong. Kind of wish gizmos all took the same arguments. Line from joint position to that O position. Um, I feel like it's just weird that that is always a 90-degree. I feel like the way this cone gizmo works is confusing to me. It does flip as we go over the border. No, it doesn't. It flips as we go away from it. That feels really weird. Is the translation in mesh local space? Where is this translation being applied? No, this is just the point. So it's got to be this. And that should be centered. Yeah. And then we need the rotation that is represented by this vector. Which I guess is from rotation arc vex z. Feels weird though, because this is like, if we don't do any rotation, then the thing that I want to point that direction is vec 3 negative y. So I really want to rotate vec 3 negative y in that direction. But that is not what happens. Hey-oh, finally caught in the stream. You get to background noise while I clean the kitchen after making mousse au chocolat. Nice. That sounds really good. Hey, maybe it's the same rotation calc you do when applying the solver result to the joints. Yeah, that would be Z. It's kind of an arbitrary axis choice, but I don't think so. Right? Like rotation around whatever it thinks Z is. So the other thing is that it's scaling, which is hilarious. Um, Maybe it is just neg Z because neg Z is forward and it's just assuming that you're going from neg Z to wherever. No. This just feels really weird. Right? This cone takes the radius and the height. And I want it to point in this direction. Right? Like I have a line drawing from point to point. So our rotation needs to be a quaternion that is represented by that direction. Do I need to normalize this? That's something I forget to do sometimes. Yeah, that just feels really strange. Why is it rotating like that? Like that angle isn't changing, right? So what is the problem? I guess it's technically I don't know. I would really like to get that cone to work. But I think I'm gonna have to do some work on it later. Um, Also, yeah, finally caught another stream. I don't know that I've done that many streams lately compared to the streams that I was doing like earlier, maybe a couple weeks ago. I think once Advent of Code started, I definitely haven't really streamed since then. I don't know. I feel like I would really like that cone to work, but I actually don't know how this rotation is applied here. Right, like render is a 3D primitive with its associated details. The y-axis is going to be global y. If I want the negative y to be facing in the direction of that vector, then I have the vector and I can take it from y, from negative y, right, to that vector, should give me the quaternion to do that rotation, right? Or is that just like wrong and I'm missing it for some reason? My brain is burnt on Advent of Code stuff. You've resigned yourself to doing Advent of Code while you're on holiday vacation. You tried doing it in real time last year and couldn't manage it alongside work. Yeah, that's totally fair, honestly. There's only 12 problems this year. So you'll have less work to do. Also, I think through day 6, it's had kind of like a relatively easy curve. I'm really expecting either tonight's problem to like just jump up in difficulty, or I don't know when the jump is going to happen, but I feel like there's a jump that's going to happen where it's like there really hasn't been a ton of difficulty over the last 6 days. I think I've gotten, if I wasn't making videos, I think I would have gotten them all done within an hour or so. Um, Making videos and talking through the whole process slows the whole thing down. But yeah, I don't know. You started doing AOC like once and did it for 3 days and then haven't anymore. Just found you didn't like how pointless it felt. Yeah, I mean, I can see that totally. I think that there's a lot of people who see Advent of Code and think of it as like, oh, it's a good opportunity to learn like Rust or something. And the reason I make the videos is kind of for those people, because it's a really actually uh, bad thing to use to learn a language. Like it is a bunch of puzzles and stuff. But you can very quickly find yourself like just extremely bogged down if you both haven't done Advent of Code and you're doing it in a new language. So like the reason I make those videos is for the people who have decided that they're going to do it in Rust, but maybe don't have all the context of either Advent of Code or how to use Rust or both, rather than being like, oh, here's, you know, a super supreme Advent of Code solution. I don't really do the like hyper optimization stuff. Yeah, if you aren't familiar with the idioms for a given language, it's not the best to jump in with. Yeah, it's not really like a language learning tool, right? Some people do use it to do that. And I think if you're very familiar with like competitive programming is kind of the wrong term for it, but it's like competitive programming adjacent. If you're not familiar with like, man, I'm gonna mess this person's name up as I always do. Dijkstra? Dijkstra? Man. I always mess that up. The problem is I've read their name more than I've heard their name. But if you're not familiar with like pathfinding algorithms, like yesterday's problem was earmuffs for anybody who has not done yesterday's problem, but not yesterday's, but the day before's. Day before's problem was like merging ranges. Yeah, a little worse than Euler. um, yeah. You think the first one was right, but it's one of those names? Yeah. I should really like sit down for like 5 to 10 minutes and just try to drill the name for a bit. That's what I usually do. That's what I do if I ever have to like pronounce somebody's name. I used to do podcasty stuff and interviews and stuff, and I would just sit there sometime before I did an interview with somebody and just be like, do they say their name on the internet? Okay, cool. Watch that. And then like hear them say it like 20 times and then try to repeat it. Just so that I would get their, like getting people's names right is like important. At least for living people. I really enjoyed the AOC content. If you could request something, maybe talk a bit more about how you came to choose the data structures you use. You find it interesting and hard. Yeah, we could do that. I could do that more. Absolutely. More like Dijkstra. Yeah. Right? Dijkstra is how you pronounce what you just wrote. Anyway, I'll look it up later. I feel confused by this isometry for some reason. From translation from XYZ, inverse new. Translate point, sure. I feel like I want to make a PR for like from vector. Three-dimensional isometry from a translation. The translation isn't what we want. Wiktionary has an audio snippet. Yeah, absolutely. I'll go to one of those sites. I'll hit the play button. I'll learn my international phonetic alphabet for the 17 millionth time, and then I'll figure it out. Hello, how's your day? It's good. It's pretty good. I have trouble with isometries, apparently. Uh, I have a mesh that I'm trying to render as a gizmo. That gizmo is rendered via an isometry. I have the translation correct, and I need to rotate it into a direction that I already have. And for some reason, the rotations look really strange to me. From Vec3 for isometry wouldn't make sense. I can see why you're saying that. I don't think I would implement from, right? I think I would I would do something along the lines of like a helper function that uses the forward direction and rotates it into that Vec3 or something like that, rather than doing like an impl from for Vec3 for isometry. Like that, I agree, would not make sense. But something that's a little bit more of a like, I have a position and another position, and I would like this thing to face that direction. Feels like it should be easier. Why not isometry 3D new translation rotation quap? Because I can't get the rotation correct. That's a me problem. Absolutely. But for some reason, this rotation is just constantly wrong. This is rotating negative y to the direction of this vector, right? This joint, this middle joint minus O gives me this vector. Or is O this vector? Hang on. O is the projection. So maybe I'm looking for O and not positions 1, actually. Maybe I just messed it up. And just forgot which one was my actual projection. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I actually was just confused about my variable names, is all it was. I was doing the right thing, just absolutely in the wrong way. I do need this to be like translation plus, or I guess what, like minus S times O dot normalize should give this. I think I need to have that. Yeah, I need to have this. Because I'm trying to insert the height of the cone so that I move it halfway down that axis. Okay, there's our cone. This is the cone. Actually, that's really cool because I think that visualizes in such a way that the green circle, let's full screen this. The green circle that is the corrected 3D projection, aside from the fact that this cone is actually just too low resolution to show it, I think that's right on the line. Which is cool. I need this cone to be like mesh resolution 20. Is going to be a problem. New cone from a radius and a height. And this takes a primitive 3D and meshes it for me. What's the answer there? Primitive 3D. Right. Takes the primitive. The primitive has to implement primitive 3D, which means that we don't get to choose a resolution. Is that true? Low-res cone, more pentagonal pyramid. Godot finally has an IK solution back. I saw somebody talking about that. Obviously, I've been doing a bunch of IK work over the last couple of weeks, so I definitely have seen people talking about Godot's IK stuff. I just don't really use Godot, so I don't really like have context for why that was taken out or put back in. Pentagonal pyramid sounds like a band name. Yeah, heavy metal, right? Yeah, prog metal. Yeah, math rock or prog metal sounds. Yeah, pentagonal pyramid. Cone. Can I not set the resolution of the primitive? Is there a mesh here somewhere? Infinite plane 3D, conical frustum, cone. I mean, conical frustum is probably what we should actually be using, but yeah, cone mesh builder has a resolution, but that builds a mesh, right? So if I do cone mesh builder.build, right, new, whatever, cone mesh builder, resolution, and then meshable is build, and that gives me a mesh and not a cone, right? And this doesn't work with meshes. This works with primitive 3Ds. So I don't think there is a way to actually set the resolution of this cone. Oh, cone anchor would have been nice. Right? Because it has to be a cone, which feels weird, right? Gizmo primitive 3D. Is there another gizmo, like a gizmo mesh? Gizmo asset, config, lines, gizmos, line config, show gizmos, line styles, light gizmos, app gizmos, primitive 2D, primitive 3D. Maybe I need to drop down into gizmo buffer. Buffer for gizmo vertex data. So if we look at the primitive 3D, I need to learn how to work a browser. He says after 2 decades of web development. So primitive 3D. The impl for gizmo buffer. Oh, there's an impl for cone in here somewhere. Wait, there's an impl for cone builder. No, this is just cone builder. Never mind. Hold up. Primitive 3D. We can't just call resolution on this, can we? We can. Okay, cool. Actually, it feels weird to have it in two different places, right? Not wrong. So that's really cool, actually, because that with the additional resolution basically exactly shows that line. So that actually makes me feel very much better about my. It is really hard to tell which side of that is forward, though. I want to say that we can see the bottom of the cone, but honestly, no, we can see the top. I'm gonna have to deploy this visualization on itch or something because this feels like such a useful visualization tool. Not for like general development, but so when I make the video, I can point people here and be like, look, this is how joint constraints work. Okay, so I'm pretty confident that the new code that I wrote for the joint constraints is actually the right code for the joint constraints. The change was not actually that big. The only difference is that in the right-hand side here, I'm dropping the z coordinate, and in the left-hand side here, I worked through it a little bit more. So let's get rid of this. So I took the normals that I wanted to handle. One of the normals is the one thing that I do feel like I want is that to be with some kind of alpha. Can we do an alpha on here? I feel like the cone, because I ramped the, yeah, so then we get that actual like visualization of the other vectors. We don't have gizmo layers, do we? Ooh, new Bevy stuff. Yeah, new Bevy stuff. Try to do new Bevy stuff, even though we're still doing AOC. AOC's got me a little bit tired, if I'm being honest. I think I've got probably another hour of streaming left in me before I'm going to crash and have to go to bed. So I feel like I'm pretty confident in this. I think I'm confident enough to basically delete my other code. The problem being that I haven't committed any of it yet. Don't do what I do. Commit your code and commit it often. Maybe if I used JJ, then I would. Maybe that's it. Maybe I just need to pick up another tool. We're going to do a JJ stream at some point. Yes, 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 use JJ, or yes, make a commit. uh AOC did kick your ass a little bit, but you got it working. Text editor did truncate your last space. Oh yeah, especially on like day 6's problem with the spaces on the end. That is rough. That is rough. I almost wish there was auto commit and auto squash so you can have tons of commits and still only push one. I mean, you can. Can't you? I think JJ solves some of those issues. I don't know if I should do a video or a stream on this first. I feel like a stream might do well. Working with GitHub, working with whatever. Testimonials. Testimonials is something that I just like. I do things where testimonials would be useful, and I have people who have offered to give them to me of their own volition, but, and I'm not saying this is true for jujitsu. It just reminded me of my like mental process of like, should I put testimonials on the Rust Adventure site? I feel like testimonials for products that are sold are basically like a bunch of people trading favors, which feels just not like something that I want to do. Also learned a nice iter tools method, batching. But yeah, grabbing some food. Let's see, batching for iter tools. I think I haven't used batching. I've seen it as I've scrolled through, because it's right at the top here. Meta iterator adapter. Its closure receives a reference to the iterator and may pick off as many elements as it likes to produce the next iterator element. Oh, so this is call next as many times as you want. Which is very cool. Batching sounds very cool. I think that the way that I wanted to solve day 6 was without spending any more time allocating numbers than I needed to. Like, I feel like one of my ideal solutions for day 6 was write the parser and do the computation as the parser, like, parsed through the reverse. Yeah, I used it to scan until the symbol plus or star was there. Plus or star wasn't always in the same position, though, was it? Or is that just one of the constraints of the input that I missed? I guess it is always the first one, isn't it? Because there's space on the end. So the star always does indicate that last number. Nice. Nice find. I didn't realize that. I used the spaces. There's a line of spaces between each of the numbers. The example on the problem had spaces before it did. Well, as I'm sure you're aware, Hikasu, the input, the test input doesn't always match the real input, but actually it doesn't, as far as I can tell. They're saying that they did basically, as far as I can tell, a reverse iterator, I'm assuming, from the end, and went until they found the next plus, or I guess until they found the next plus in this direction. I don't actually know. Maybe Paul can tell us. Yeah, reverse iterator. Yeah. So reverse iterator until you find the plus, and then reverse iterator until you find the star, and then reverse iterator. Yeah. Reverse is what I did too. I turned the the first 3 lines, or the first 4 lines, I guess, arbitrary number of lines, into a vec of iterators, and then just went next, 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 next. So batching might have helped me there, actually. I think the thing that I didn't do, I tried not to hard code the number of numbers and stuff. But batching seems like it would work well for that, right? Do the next for each of them, do the next for each of them, do the next for each of them. I like that. I'm kind of not really doing all that much in the way of optimization this year. I don't know. I just like, we were doing the I was doing like the range problem for day 5. And I read the problem and I was like, I've done merge ranges every year in Advent of Code for the past like 3 or 4 or 5 years. And I just didn't want to write merging ranges again. like I've just done it every year and I just didn't want to do it again. So I went through the crates.io and did some open source investigation and stuff instead. You're a bit ashamed of your Rust code, but you got it working. I mean, if it works, that is a huge success, right? Even if it like feels bad, you can always like, one of the things that sort of guides the way that I do programming in general is to get it to work before I get it to look good, before I get it to like optimize it or anything like that. Because if it works, it's a lot easier to like change things to make it better. If it doesn't work, then you're in like a pit. You work with some generics because you wanted to see if you could free it a bit more. Nice. Yeah, merge ranges. I also did also lend your code because I have done it enough times on JJob and C. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that the whole sort ranges and merge them, it's like, cool, I guess. Let's see, multiple end effectors is the other one that I need. Oh no, those are assets. I haven't committed any of the assets directories yet. Yeah, we're getting a commit in here because push that up. Just want to make sure that I don't like try to refactor this to get it to work and then break it completely and not be able to get it back. You just remember due to AOC for January. Sorry, I read it. I heard it in my head. I said January anyway. January, generative as in code, not AI. Yes, January is cool. I've done January actually, and I've done it in Bevy. I want to say 2 years ago I did a January, and one day the prompt was something like pixels or something like that, and this has got to be in my Christopher Biscardi repos. I think it's 2023. No, it's got to be. You can see that I used the same like, like here's my daily template. Is my AOC setup. Lines and layers. I must not have committed. Particles, pixels. Pixels was what got me. 4 days in, there was pixels. And I had a lot of fun just doing like pixelization of 3D scenes. This is where the pixelization plugin in Rust Adventure came from. So this like 3D scene pixelization pass. This is, I don't remember which version this is specifically. It's definitely not like a perfect pixelization or whatever. Um, I don't know that I really post about it all that much, but I have definitely have participated for like the last 2 years. I wouldn't say that I do it like I do AOC. Like I don't make a video every day for January. I think that after doing 25 days of Advent of Code, it's really tough for me to again commit to another month of prompts directly after. Maybe this year, um, maybe after only 12 days of AOC. But I don't know. There's like so much that I want to do for Rust Adventure. So many like, there's a Bevy release coming up, which means I have to update all the workshops again. Um, so I don't know. Maybe I'll see what happens. But I've definitely done January before. And I definitely could do it again. The AOC setup is really pretty, but did roll your own currently? Yeah. I'm surprised by how many people like use my setup. I've made videos on my setup in past years, and I just don't I didn't expect so many people to like jump in and be like, "Hey, I like this enough to just clone it and use it." Um People submit PRs to fix things, to like run things on different systems and stuff. It's really cool. I guess I just didn't expect people to like want to use it directly. It seems like something that would be fun to just collect the prompts from, randomly pull one when you're bored. I think the prompts are pretty simple though. January 25 is already up, so we can see the prompts. I think that there are some of them that I just don't want to do every year as well. Um, I am generally not a person who has trouble coming up with another project to do. Pixel sorting, I feel like makes it every year. I want to say pixel sorting makes it to January every year. Pixel sorting could be fun. Maybe do a compute shader pixel sort, something like that. I feel like January 3rd is not one that I want to participate in. Like I have no real interest in this constraint, right? I'm sure somebody else loves this constraint. It's just not a constraint that I'm interested in personally. Vertical or horizontal lines only could be cool. Black on black, isometric art. Are these the 2025 prompts or are these last year's prompts? They seem very familiar. Draw 1 million of something. You can only use Tau. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about all of these. I might do a couple of them. Might do like pick ones that I feel pretty excited about. Triangles and nothing else. So basically just a 3D Bevy app. You mean this year it's only 12 and you don't have to commit? Even a short like minute thing would be neat, I think. You mean like do like a minute on January every day? Yeah, I could do shorts. I still have to commit the time to actually doing the day's stuff, you know? So I think that's more where the time comes from. Like the video recording it afterwards is actually not that big of a time sink. Even the Advent of Code videos actually only take me a couple hours every day to produce. Like it's if you have a bunch of other stuff to do, you know, taking 2 to 3 hours to do an Advent of Code video is a lot. Um But if I don't record the process and I just do the thing on my own and then make a video, making that video is like super easy for me. I think I can do that within like half an hour these days. But yeah, I'll keep it in mind. I'll remind myself, or feel free to remind me if I haven't said anything about it. You just think your style of video fits it very well, and for the more graphical topics, it seems like a neat resource. Yeah, absolutely. I think that probably what I'll do is, um, if I participate, I will probably not commit to doing every day. Like I said, not every day interests me, this one's more relaxed too. Like Advent of Code has 25 stars to get, or 49 stars to get, and et cetera, et cetera. This is more just like, hey, do this, don't stress about it. Yeah, don't get burned out. This is supposed to be fun and creative. I think that doing some compute shader stuff could be very cool for January. Um, Generative palettes is pretty cool. Generative architecture could be, man, generative architecture feels like it could be not a wave function collapse, but what's the other one that people started using after wave function collapse? I can't remember. Um, but that's like, my mind goes to like build Townscaper. So it's very easy for me to overscope these as well in my head. Okay, let's see. This is running, right? It's running. We have our cone. I feel like doing a white circle at the base of the cone would be cool. Let's see. Color, white, primitive 3D. Is this going to be a primitive 3D? I don't think so. I've got a whole bunch of other stuff open. I was going to look at, oh, what was I going to look at? Somebody was talking about something Git related earlier, and I was going to look at if JJ solved squashing, auto squashing. JJ has like a specific angle on doing like branch work. And I was just going to see if they had anything just like sitting here ready to go for me to like bring up and talk about. But I don't think they do. Here we go. Unlike most other VCSs, Jujitsu will automatically create commits from the working copy contents when they have changed. I think that is what you want. I think you should look into JJ. If that kind of thing is what you want, I think you should look into JJ Land. Now, obviously, I'm not like a daily user or anything, so I don't know how it'll fit into your workflow and whatnot, but I think this auto commit creation and like branch tracking and stacked PRs and stuff. Seems to be a thing that JJ is really good at that people like. Okay. What was I going to do? I was going to look for Bevy. What do we have implementations for? Segment 3D. We could do like a really small cylinder. I guess we have circle already, right? So from circle, grab an isometry, pick a radius. I think QJ is our radius. Pick a color. I don't know what the resolution is going to be. We'll figure it out. And then this is going to be, I think, in the same direction. At that projected point. So I think we have that projected point, but we don't have this from the origin. This O is actually relative to, actually is O is the vector projected onto the other vector. So this is global. You're right, but is it Git compatible? Yes, it is. JJ being Git compatible is like one of the primary reasons that people are actually choosing to use it. Using Jiu-Jitsu with GitHub and GitLab projects is like a documented page. My understanding is that you can choose to start using JJ on a Git project and then also stop using JJ on a Git project, and that is a thing that you can opt into or out of at any time. I don't think they have their own backend. I think Git is their backend right now. I don't know what they're going to do long term. I think they have aspirations, but right, their primary introductory thing is clone a Git repo. Dealing with conflicts, operation logs, moving changes between commits. Yeah. Anyway, I would say yes, it's Git compatible. It's designed to be Git compatible. So what are these vectors? These vectors are, I need that position in global space, not just the vector. So really I need this to put this circle on. And I think we're going to use the same situation there. The only weird part is that this is now like a circle around that point, which just feels weird. What does it do if we don't put a rotation on it? I think it's just going to be that circle. Can we not rotate this circle? I don't think we can rotate this circle. Sounds like exactly what you want then. Yeah. I think that JJ, from what I've heard from the people that I've heard talk about it over the last year or two, and the direction that they're headed and the way that they're approaching it, JJ seems like the tool that people currently want Git to be. It's still a little bit early. I think they're still missing some things, right? Like it's not a 1.0 release in the same way that Bevy is not a 1.0 release. But JJ seems like a good thing. And I do want to put some time into learning it. Okay, so does Gizmo's circle not actually allow rotation? Draw a circle in 3D with the given isometry applied. Back 3, back Y. Oh, I felt the tired hit. You ever like, are you ever doing something and you're like, wow, I was fine 5 seconds ago and the tired just hit. Maybe it's Billboard. My understanding, the thing that I will say is that if this circle does not rotate, it is extremely weird that it has an isometry. If it doesn't rotate, then it should take a vec. That's what I'll say. I think that it not rotating and accepting an isometry 3D is a bug. They even have rotations here. So the default is, I think, being on the XY plane. So if it's on the XY plane, then I need this to be neg Z for the rotation. There we go. If I just close my eyes and wish for the math, it enters my head. You just need to, I guess, be aware of how the meshes are set up and stuff and what the defaults are if you're going to try to rotate it. It does feel a little bit strange that I need to do different rotations for different things, but I think that that's fine. The cone, I think, probably isn't super accurate there for that circle. I think the circle itself is accurate and the cone is a little bit off based on that base, but I think that that's fine. Now that white line inside of it doesn't really make that much sense. And I think that this doesn't need to be an alpha. So now it's really clear, I think, right? Like now it's really clear that like the white circle on the left is the white circle on the right. I think that I want a 0, 0 blue dot in the middle of this other 2D. That's a 3D. Oh, did I make this slate 50? I did. I was being design fancy. do gizmos dot 2D dot circle 2D isometry 2D default 0.05 not slate 50. I think this is blue. I think this is blue 400 if I remember correctly. Nice. I think that the dot here probably needs to be a little bit smaller. I love that Bevy can do this. This is just 2 cameras. That's it. It's a 3D camera and a 2D camera split on the viewport. I think that's fine. You've cursed me not 3 minutes after you talked about sudden tiredness. I got really tired. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll take the blame for that one. I need to. I've got music on today because I knew this was going to happen to me. And you got guests coming in 20 minutes. Oh no. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You should put on Catriel and Paco Amoroso. Beto's Horns, the Fred Again remix. Just put it on and turn it up. I don't even know what kind of music you like, but okay. So this is feeling better. I want to move this. This is no longer temporary. This is now the real actual set of math that I needed to do. I don't think you're actually at fault. Yeah. Most likely it's the lack of ADHD meds because you woke up too late to take them. Yeah, I haven't taken any today either. Yeah, I can write that out. I don't know what kind of music you listen to, so this is like, if you know who Fred Again is, this is a Fred Again remix track on, I think, Buenos Aires. Yeah, I was right. I didn't want to say it without knowing. They have a really, really, really fantastic tiny desk, which is very much not the vibe of Beto's Horns. It's very different and it's very, very, very good. It's like, it's not acoustic, but they bring like a whole band and everything. If you want, I can send you a playlist I have called Music Taste Optimized for Maximum Whiplash. And the fact that there's whiplash should tell you enough about my taste being varied. Cool. Yeah, definitely. Absolutely send it to me. I will throw the playlist on at some point here. Not on stream, but you know what I mean. I'll definitely listen to it. Check it out. I grew up going to like emo and hardcore shows and then had that like 2000s EDM sprinkled in. Uh, so I had a Cars CD that I really liked when I was younger. Okay, so really what we're doing here for the math now is this vector from this bone or this joint to this joint and through it, like this line. This line is quote unquote L1, right? I'm treating this line past the point of the cone as the normal of the plane that includes the target over here and the center point of the cone at that position. So that normal, and then the other normal I'm using is Z because I want this to translate and rotate into being the XY plane. There's 5 remixes from the same artist. It'll be Fred remix. So this is the normal of the red blue line going through for the plane. And the new normal is the normal that would give us an XY plane, right? So we're taking this normal and we're finding the rotation that turns that normal into vec3y. And then we're taking that rotation as a matrix and applying it to this target position, this joint. That's the 2D visualization on the right-hand side here. And then after we do that, we do the inverse to map it back to 3D space. And that's how we're getting this math to work out. It took me longer than I don't know that it's longer than it should have, but it definitely took me some time to figure out what I should be doing here. Do I have the Zotero thing open? I do have the Zotero thing open. The description that I was working from for doing this is this. And it's like, do some things, which are like, project this vector onto that vector, which are super easy, right? There's like literally APIs in GLAM to do vector projection. And then 3.4. 3.4, map the target with a rotation and a translation in such a way that O is now located at the axis origin and orientated according to the X and Y axis. Okay, which X and Y axis? Arbitrary X and Y axis. O needs to be rotated and translated in some way. How do you do that? Go figure it out. Anyway, I figured it out. This is the translation. So you can see that Z is 0 here, which is the point, right? This is, just bit my tongue. This is now a point in the XY plane, like Bevy's XY plane. Whoa. I need to name these variables better because I will never remember what this is. OG normal is probably not going to make sense to anybody ever. So what do I call this? I call this the joint target plane normal because it's not the joint. It's not a joint. What is it? It's the projection target plane normal. It's the projection of that vector plus the target as a plane, that normal. YouTube blocked the last message for all caps. Well, I definitely didn't, so that's on you. I absolutely despise how Android has a thing that stops media players from simultaneously playing. Yeah, I don't know if there's a setting for that. I don't particularly mind it, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Yada yada yada. Oh, good. Freya's. It's too bad YouTube doesn't have rating. I could have just rated Freya at the end of my stream. Okay, so we have the projection target plane normal, and we have the Bevy XY plane normal. I'm using long names for these because this is going to be something that somebody else reads at some point, right? That rotates this onto this, which can then be applied to the target. The cross of both normals, I don't want to say that it's the intersection of the two planes because I don't know if it is actually. I think it is. It also feels a little bit sketchy that I'm just doing like angle between this and that. Um, rotation matrix, projected endpoint from origin. Is that the good name for this variable? This is the joint position in the middle minus this. So it's these two vectors, which gives me that finished day 6, posted your times. Nice. How'd you do? I think I have a refactor to do for day 6. 40 micros. Nice. I guess I should do the. Do I even have this on? I never start my bot. I just forget. I need this to be hosted is really what I need. Okay, so we've got our cone constraint. And from this works in both directions. So I really didn't intend to code this to work in both directions right now. But according to the math, this works in both directions, which is very cool. It's weird how frequent this tags number 1, number 2 change in the YouTube chat. Yeah, I have no idea how those work. I'm going to be honest. There's like some scoring thing. I also don't know if they change if like somebody leaves chat or what counts as somebody being in chat, you know? I know that Twitch started not counting people who lurk in view counts, which is really weird because I know a lot of people like to lurk and not actually send messages, which I definitely appreciate, all you lurkers. But yeah, I have no idea how those points work. Haven't got a clue. Yes, sir. Here, see ya. Have a good time. Okay, projected endpoint from origin. O, I think, is this vector. The joint position is actually this vector, but the joint position is from origin. So this minus that will give us actually this vector, which is not the projected. This is the projected endpoint from origin. So I think that's fine. The right global position of the vector projection, new T position. This should be renamed something. This is going to be target position 2D plane. These names are so long, but the math here is like, I feel like if this isn't extremely well commented, nobody's going to be able to read this. So the target position, I guess, in 2D plane, right? We basically have a ton of gizmos, which really blows up the size of this code right now. But I think the gizmos are like pretty critical, you know? So this is the target position rotated and translated to exist on the 2D plane on, I guess, Bevy's 2D XY plane with O as the origin. This is the original target position. This is the that's not the original target position. This doesn't make sense to log out in 3D like this, because that is actually not the original target position anyway. So this is what makes sense. Do I say projecting to circle? We use projection a little bit too much to mean vector projection. 2D target position before mapping to circle to cone slice. Just saw the strangest thing on your YouTube feed. Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like my YouTube algorithm gets stuck on like a set of videos. I don't know if there's just not that much or Kenshin Impact Duolingo collab. Perfect. ingest AI language tools while playing gotcha games. They probably share a market, right? New position. This is new target position. New target position 2D. This green is right. We've got a little, maybe this is a little too small. 0.1 might be better. I want it to be like a dot, but I think that's fine. I feel like sometimes these circles like look a little bit choppy. Okay, and then this is and this arrow is the other arrow. So I think we're good. This is the um represents the same movement as the 2D green vector. So all of this now is no longer temporary. And it starts slate 50 for Q, blue. This T position is something we're getting rid of now. I guess we didn't check if it's inside circle, so I guess I should paste this here. And when we create that new position, before we do the projection and the angle, right? No, after we do this, once we have the target position on the 2D plane, before we remap, we have to check to see if it's in. And we do that by checking to see if it's inside of the circle, basically. Right? The length of the position less than the radius. So our position here is if target position on 2D plane dot xy dot length is greater than qj, then we have to do this work. Right? So this goes, is inside circle. I left a comment there, so that's fine. Then all of this stuff, I'm going to comment instead of deleting because it's going to remove some of this debug stuff. I think we're going to rewrite some of this debug stuff, but cool. So now we have the bones, the vector, the movement, the indigo log is something that we don't currently have. But we already have the green movement, so we don't need the indigo log because the indigo represented like the place that the joint moved to. We could do another line, but I don't know that we need to. We don't need the indigo anymore. This is we need this indigo because we need to extend the bone position. So we have the new position. We need to convert that into this stuff. Hey, Sarav, how's it going? Yeah, Advent of Code has been taking a decent amount of my energy. Is really what it is right now. I'm also trying to catch up on This Week in Bevy. I let myself fall a little behind, and it's a little bit tough to catch up, especially with Advent of Code also happening at the same time. So hopefully I'll catch up. I will be ready to go when the release candidate comes out for a new This Week in Bevy episode. And then we will continue through the release candidate process, and the website will be updated with all the backfill. I don't know that I'll make videos on YouTube for the backfill, but yeah, we'll see. Does this run? Unexpected closing delimiter? I was expecting this to have a problem. Is this just good? Oh, we are good to go. That is so much nicer. It's obviously hard to like work this in 3D. I could add some more controls. I don't know that we need the origin. The origin doesn't really matter. So I think I'll get rid of that, actually. Is this the right one to get rid of? Yes. Okay. How do we feel about that? What do people think? As far as a visualization, I think that it would be nice to like put the cone gizmo behind everything else. Like maybe I camera order the cone gizmo to be behind everything with a render layer. Will it be fast enough? What do you mean by fast enough? Like will the joint constraint algorithm be fast enough to use? I think so. I mean, I'm not seeing any issues here. This is just running in development and it's just one joint, but this is having zero issues in terms of like calculating everything it needs to. We'll see. I think that once we put the joint constraints into the 3D multi-end effector stuff, then it gets really interesting because then it gets like actually usable for stuff. Joint constraints are like the big step. Once we have joint constraints, in general, this is just by the way, this is just one joint constraint. There are a whole bunch of other joint constraints. Um, so I don't know how those are going to go. But now that we have one implemented, I feel pretty good in general. I think I want to deploy this in general so that people can kind of see like how it works, you know? I want to make some changes to these gizmos. I think the circles are a little bit low resolution for some reason. Is that a change I can make with the config right away? This is width, like a default resolution, perspective, joints, style. Defaults to false. What does this look like if we turn perspective on? Oh no. Do we lose any thickness that we could possibly want? I don't know. I'll have to figure out what the difference between having perspective on and off is there. I also have to add some controls, I think. I don't know. I think a camera rotation would be cool, like a middle click or a right click and rotate. Um, so that you can kind of look at how this works in more than just this. Right now, this only moves this back and forth on the XY plane. So it's 2 meters, I guess, in 3D in front of everything else. And there's no way to like put it back. Oh, I'm reasonably happy about this though. This is going to turn into a all right, let me restart this so that I have fresh. I'm hyped though. This feels like it's gonna work when we poured it in. I feel like going that close to the center was probably not useful. Let's go to there. Convert it to a 19 by 10. Trim and convert. Save as new. And oh, all right. I think that's gonna call it for me for the stream for today. The tired hit me about 40 minutes ago, and it is starting to hit me for round 2, and I don't think I'll survive round 3. So thanks everyone for hanging out. I don't know when I'm gonna stream again. Definitely Saturday. Gonna keep Saturday mornings going for Bevy stuff, and then we'll see. Thanks everyone for hanging out, and I will see you in the next one. Or I guess for Advent of Code tonight.